The first two games against the San Diego Padres have gone swimmingly for the St. Louis Cardinals as they walk off game two after a solid game one victory, talking about how they can improve upon those games, go for a sweep today on this episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Cardinals podcast for Wednesday, June the 1st. Thank you for making it your first listen of the day. Episode 1 of 2 today here on June 1st. Feeling a little bit better this morning. I was not feeling great last night, so I was unable to get a post-game episode recorded, but we are talking about it today. I am Lucas Smith of the Locked On Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for tuning in. And once again, making it your first listen of the day each and every single day. Happy June, everybody. We finally made it to June. Kind of hard to believe at times, but we have indeed made it through May and on to June. And the Cardinals sit in a pretty decent spot. The second episode of the day today, we'll release a little bit later on, is going to be kind of a mid-season, not a mid-season, a quarter of the season update, if you will, for the St. Louis Cardinals, as they sit in a pretty decent spot overall, if you talk about it. For episode 2, let's go and get into the San Diego series, because a 6-3 win and a 3-2 win are two solid wins so far for the St. Louis. And this is a San Diego Padres team that has been playing pretty well overall for the most part coming into this series. They had two really hot hitters that have really been cooled off by the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff in Eric Hosmer and Manny Machado. Machado didn't even make it through the game yesterday as he was tossed, but even with this little two-game skid, the Padres still only sit 3 games out of the Los Angeles Dodgers for first place in the National League West. They're 5-5 in their last 10 now. So this is a series that the Cardinals have really stepped up, and they have shown, at least me, that this offense is starting to click. They're starting to find ways to win, and it's really been pitching has been name of the game for this Cardinals team in these first 2 games. We'll start with Monday's game. How impressive was both Packy Naughton and Andre Pallante? When Naughton got the nod for the start on Memorial Day on Monday, I really wasn't too sure what to think about. I talked about it with a crossover with Javi on Monday. If you missed it, how I might have thought 4 to 5 innings would have been a success, but after watching the broadcast, reading some other reports, it seems at one time through the lineup was going to be what Naughton was expected for. He got through that one time in the lineup, 2 1/3 innings pitched. He was charged with an earned run, but he struck out 4, didn't walk a man, gave up 1 run. Charged with a run, rather, and he gave up 2 hits. Andre Pallante comes in. He goes 3 1/3, scatters 5 hits, gets charged an earned run, although he was not the pitcher that gave up that run himself, and struck out 5 in his 3 1/3. Truly remarkable stuff by Andre Pallante. And with the Cardinals short on pitching, limited days off, and a doubleheader coming up on Saturday, Andre Pallante might have just earned himself a start at the major league level. I truly believe that. Naughton pitched extremely well, but I think Pallante, who has started in the past at the minor league level, maybe a little bit more of a known commodity to Cardinal fans per se, I think he has earned himself a start. And then behind him, Giovanny Gallegos gave up hits. He was the one who gave up the inherited runner. Cabrera, a walk and a strikeout in a scoreless inning. Ryan Helsley showed his human side as his ERA skyrocketed to .51 in that game as he gave up a run, and he still wasn't giving up hard contact, and his stuff still looked phenomenal. But when this team pitches, similar to last year's team, they win for the most part. Obviously, you didn't know that was going to be the case after Wainwright pitched his tail off yesterday, and then you had Giovanny Gallegos blow it in the 8th inning, excuse me. But just to go back to Pallante a little bit before I focus on Adam Wainwright, what do you guys think? Shoot me an email, lockedoncards@gmail.com. Drop me a DM at LJ Fastball on Twitter. Email the show or DM the show on Twitter or Instagram at LO_Cardinals. I think Pallante should start. I've been really impressed with him this season. He had that one little hiccup against the Toronto Blue Jays when he walked in 2 runs in that Michaelis start. But we're starting to see Michaelis show some chinks in the armor. Wainwright starting to step up, but behind that, you really have no idea what you're going to get from this starting rotation. So you might as well throw somebody in there who has been stretched out his last couple of appearances in Andre Pallante, who has starting experience and who has success at the major league level and obviously at the minor league level throughout the course of his career. To me, Andre Pallante is a clear choice to start. You could go Naughton. You could call up Jake Woodford for the 27th man on the doubleheader on Saturday, and I would be okay with that too. The Cardinals, while they might be stretched pretty thin in terms of trying to get innings, they are not stretched thin on options. You have plenty of options. It's just the quality of those options that I think are being called into question here. Excuse me, still nursing back, so I had to drink a little bit of water there. The Saturday start will be interesting to see where the Cardinals go with it in terms of who gets a start. Do they go with another bullpen game? Because that's another thing about Monday. It was a true bullpen game. You knew Naughton was, at least the broadcasters knew that they were spot on their analysis that Naughton was going to go through one turn through the order because his last time out, it was a good one turn through against the Orioles. The second turn through, he started to get hit around. So the Cardinals said, all right, well, we're only going to have you hit or pitch through one part of the order. And problem solved. He did just that. And you had Pallante go through. You eat up 2 to 3 innings. He did just that. And then you close it out with your 3, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guys in Gallegos, Cabrera, and Helsley. And you call it good. A true bullpen game is something that the Cardinals have not found themselves winning frequently this year, but they're able to win on Monday with a bullpen game. I'll talk about the offense performances in segment 2. I want to focus on pitching in this segment, and that means getting to focus on the man, the myth, the legend, in Adam Wainwright. Best start of the year. He goes 7 shutout innings, gives up 2 hits, both of them to Luke Voigt, walks a man, strikes out 10. Truly a phenomenal start by Adam Wainwright. He had not only was it his best start of the year, he had his best stuff. Because sometimes your best stuff doesn't always equal the best start. You get hit around sometimes, yada, yada, yada. Wainwright was able to pair his best stuff with his best start. I was surprised to learn that was his only his 13th game of his career with double-digit strikeouts. I did not expect that from Adam Wainwright. I expected to see maybe a little bit more double-digit strikeout games from Wainwright, 2 off his career high, but the 10 strikeouts was a season high. And I mentioned it last segment. The Cardinals are stretched thin on innings right now. So you know what they needed? They needed Adam Wainwright to be Adam Wainwright, and he did just that. Wainwright has had some good starts this year. He got some 5 wins. This was the first start that he hasn't had a decision. He's had some pretty good starts, but this was really the first time, or against a quality team. Obviously, he pitched well against the Padres. This was the first time I thought against a high-quality opponent that Wainwright stepped up and was vintage Waino, was Adam Wainwright that the Cardinals needed him to be, and it was almost picture perfect from a team standpoint. However, Gallegos comes in, gives up the 2-run home run to Grisham, and all of a sudden it's a tie ball game. Wainwright does not qualify for the win, but his ERA is dropped to 2.75. Long season to go, missed a couple starts, innings might not be where you want him, but 40 years old with a 2.75 ERA is something that will play every single day. No questions about it, no ifs, ands, or buts. That will play over the course of 162 if he's able to continue at that level. I have no questions about that. You see Ryan Helsley come in. He walks a man, but he still gets out of it. Drew Verhagen does a phenomenal job with the help of some defense that I'll talk about in segment number 2. But he's still able to get the 3 outs that he needs to get in that 10th inning to send it to the 10th before Pujols does his Pujols magic. But just a quick comment, a quick point, if you will, on Giovanny Gallegos, because we did have a commenter, who's a frequent commenter, a frequent listener to Locked On Cardinals from Brazil, I believe. Francisco Campos tweeted at @LO_Cardinals. You probably have a reason or explanation, but I simply don't understand why we still have Giovanny Gallegos in our bullpen. So this is my response. When he gets rest, he's effective. He's come up short in a number of spots this season, which is why he's lost the closer spot. Francisco then replied, well, ... Maybe he's not that reliable then. Francisco, I hear you. I definitely understand the thought that Giovanny Gallegos is not reliable, or not as reliable as he has been, but he has been somebody that has been reliable in the past. And what was the factor yesterday in his unsuccess? He pitched the day before. Maybe Gio is a guy that you just, plain and simple, you draw a hard, fast rule. We're not going back-to-back days with Giovanny Gallegos. It's just not happening. Maybe that's what you have to do to keep Gio sharp, but I still think he's got a good fastball. He's got a great slider. He's lost the closer spot for good reason. Helsley seems to be that guy that has locked down the closer spot. Uh, so that is the punishment right now for Giovanny Gallegos, and I think that is punishment enough. Obviously, if he keeps blowing games like this, then you have to have more of a conversation. But right now, I'm okay with Gio losing the closer spot, and that being that. The name of the first two games has been pitching and timely hitting for the Cardinals, at least in certain moments of the first two games. So talk about the pitching. To start off this next segment, I'm talking about the Newt Bar throw because that thing was incredible, and I don't want to let that be I'm not going to bury the lead when I talk about the other parts of the game. I want to start with pitching. We're talking about the Newt Bar throw and the Cardinal heroics from last night when we talk about when we come back rather in segment number 2. But first, I want to tell you all about BetOnline. It is the number one source for all of your betting needs this season, as well as any sports information you might want to find out. You can find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, which the finals are this week, Major League Baseball scores, NHL playoffs, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. You can find all of the latest odds at BetOnline because it continues to be your source for all of your sport wager information from live betting, playoffs, esports, and anything you can imagine. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action because BetOnline is where the game starts. Newt. How about that large Newt Bar throw last night in the top of the 10th inning to keep the game tied, to send the Cardinals, or to send the game to the bottom of the 10th with the Cardinals still having a chance to win. That was probably the best moment of his season because he is somebody that was sent down. He's a fan favorite, although his numbers aren't incredible. He put up some really good numbers at the AAA level, I will say that. But he is somebody that made an impact on yesterday's game. Despite going 0 for 1 at the plate, he was a pinch runner for Juan Yepes. But this, in large part, right now, is why Lars Nootbaar is at the major league level. Get a couple base hits. He can pinch run for Yepes. He's a defensive replacement right now. But this just goes to show that you can still make an impact in whatever role you have at the major league level. Because Juan Yepes has done a nice job overall. 278 the batting average. Hit a couple big home runs. He was 1 for 3 yesterday with a single. But he's not an outfielder, and we've seen that. And if he's in that game in the 10th inning, do you think Juan Yepes is throwing out any runner at the plate? I don't think he is. All due respect to Yepes, Lars Nootbaar was put in that spot for a reason. Now, it just so happened the ball happened to find him, and he wasn't hit to right fielder, but when Donovan was playing, that might have been a different story. But Lars Nootbaar with a 96-mile-an-hour seed to the plate, strike to Molina. He puts the tag down. All the momentum right there shifts to the Cardinals. Every single ounce of it. I talk about this. I think about this a lot anyways. Baseball is a momentum shifting game. More than any other sport, I think. Right there and there, all the momentum Cardinals. They start with a runner on second base. Paul Goldschmidt gets the Barry Bonds-like treatment, which is a no-brainer at this point. He's intentionally walked. Not quite Barry Bonds because that was bases loaded. But he's intentionally walked. You get Nolan Arenado to pop out. That's great. And then Tommy Edman steals third base. This was a gutsy play. If it works out the way it did, we're talking about it the way we are. Great play, great intuition, sets up the winning run. Awesome. If he gets thrown out there, completely different narrative, completely different story. And now you've got Paul Goldschmidt at first with 1 out. Or 2 outs, excuse me. But even the way it worked out with Edman stealing third, and he did set up the sacrifice fly for Albert Pujols, Goldsmith did not run, so now you still have the double play in effect. It was not a double steal. Edman, even though he was 0 for 5, made an impact on this game. Yes, it was because of the Rob Manfred ghost runner, but it was still an impact on the game and set up the winning run. Albert Pujols hits a line drive to left field that was caught by Profar. It wasn't a deep drive, but he was still able to score. Tommy Edman and the Cardinals go on with a winner. But you know how the Cardinals scored their other 2 runs yesterday, excuse me? Just throw out a guess. One was an Albert Pujols sacrifice fly. The other one, a Paul Goldschmidt double. His month of May was phenomenal, and if he's not player of the month this month, I don't know what to tell you. I know Betts is having a spectacular month. Machado had a great month. Alonso had a great month. Forget who was the player of the week, but it wasn't Goldschmidt. But Goldschmidt just was on a tear throughout the entire month of May. Literally every single day of May was on an absolute tear. A catalyst for this team, because not only did he get the scoring started in the third, he also made an impact on Monday's game, Memorial Day. You saw the Gorman home run, yes, but you also saw the Paul Goldschmidt home run when it was a 3-2 game in the seventh inning after the Padres had a little bit of momentum. The Cardinals didn't score in a bases-loaded situation earlier in the game with Paul Goldschmidt at the plate. Padres were able to tack a couple runs back. It was a close game. They got it within run, and then Paul Goldschmidt just sends one over the left center field wall. And it went to the bullpen, excuse me. And now the momentum, not only is the momentum back with the Cardinals, but they also got a couple of runs to go along with the momentum. Molina doubles in a run later. I talked about this in a show last week or a week and a half ago because it's a question that is almost borderline scary to think about. Where would this team be without Paul Goldschmidt? Paul Goldschmidt has been an absolute monster for this team, especially since Nolan Arenado, although he did have a couple hits yesterday, has been really struggling as of late. Really struggling. Paul Goldschmidt has been the savior for this team in May. And we're getting to the point now, and again, I'll talk about this in the second show that's released today, that this is where the team started to falter last year. Their June was not good at all. But Paul Goldschmidt has made sure that, hey, we're going to make sure May is really good, and we're going to June on a little bit of a winning streak, putting ourselves in a good spot in the standings. Right now, the Cardinals sit just 3 games back of Milwaukee, won their last 2, looking for a sweep today. Paul Goldschmidt was just unbelievable. The other part of the offense from Monday that I want to talk about, well, let's talk about Nolan Gorman and the start to his major league career. I know a lot of you wanted to see him in pinch hitting in last night's game for Albert Pujols or in a couple other different spots, and I get that, but apparently he wasn't feeling super well. Hopefully he's feeling a little bit better today, but holy cow. He had a 3-hit game that you can talk about a way to make an impact in your first 30 at-bats. He's got 31 at-bats at the major league level. He's hitting 387. His OPS is over 1,000. 2 bombs, 7 RBIs. And when I say 2 bombs, I mean 2 absolute, no doubt, bombs. Both of them sounded pretty off the bat. Both of them left the ball yard by plenty. Nolan Gorman has been as advertised to start his major league career. You know why he's been as advertised? Because we've seen the hitting ability, we've seen the power, we've also seen the 10 strikeouts in 15 games. And they came in bunches in that series against Toronto, and we've also seen the errors at second base. So Nolan Gorman has been 100% as advertised, which is a good thing because of the hitting, and also some things to work on, some things to think about with the fielding and the strikeouts. But overall, I don't think you can complain one bit about what Nolan Gorman has done not defensively. You can complain defensively, but what he's done offensively. He's been a nice little boost to this lineup. He's a left-handed hitter. This lineup has been lacking. They thought they had it in Dickerson. They do not. Dickerson continues to struggle at the major league level with the St. Louis Cardinals. But this was a game both Monday and Tuesday to kind of wrap a bow on the 2 games. It was kind of a punch counter punch type of start both times, Monday and Tuesday. Because Monday you got the Padres take the lead in the third. You come back with 2 runs in the bottom of the third on the Gorman home run. You add a run in the 5th. You give up a run in the 6th, so it's a little closer of a game. It's you don't know what's going to happen. Goldschmidt hits yourself a bomb, and all of a sudden you add a little bit of momentum. Tuesday's game, you get on top with the Goldschmidt double. You add it to Pujols. Wainwright does a really good job. Gallegos gives up a 2-run home run. Now you're tied. You got to fight your way back. Punch, counter punch. What can you do next? The Cardinals, the offense hasn't looked, maybe at times hasn't looked super pretty. Like I mentioned, the bases loaded situation yesterday. The Cardinals were just 2 for 6 they were 2 for 6 on Monday with runners in scoring position. They stranded 8. But you still had the bases loaded situation with Arenado and Goldsmith that stranded runners. They were just 1 for 9 yesterday, and they stranded 9 runners on base. So there are some different statistical measures that you could say, this team still needs to improve. But overall, I think the offense is in a much better spot right now than it was a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, or this time last month going into May. They're not an all or nothing team. Like yesterday, they didn't even hit a home run. They had two doubles, Goldschmidt and Sosa. So they're not an all or nothing team. They're not striking out as much. They're walking more. They had 5 walks yesterday. One of those was intentional to Goldschmidt. Donovan walked twice, Goldschmidt walked twice, and Arenado once. So this is a more complete offense, and I think it's because of the cast of characters you're seeing in it. You're seeing Brendan Donovan be more part of the offense, Sosa a little bit more, Yepez a little bit more. You're seeing characters in this offense that are a little bit more than just all or nothing type players. And even Gorman, who has struck out a fair amount, is getting a lot of 2-strike, 2-out hits as well. So the Cardinals have done the hard part. They've done the easy part, I guess. The easier of these two next parts. They've won the series. Now the next part, the extra hard part, is to go out and win the series. And I'll tell you why it's going to be extremely hard for the Cardinals to do that coming up here in just a moment if you're on your podcasting platforms. The reason that the sweep is going to be hard today is because it's a day game coming off a night game. That's a reason, something to think about. But the big reason is because the Cardinals have Dakota Hudson on the mound, who has not been the type of starter that they expect him to be, that he can be. And because Darvish gets the ball for the San Diego Padres. Darvish this season is having, something exceptional, but he's having a solid season. His whip sits at 1.08, so just over a base runner per inning. His ERA sits at 3.76. He's 4-2 in 9 starts. 52 2/3 of an innings pitched for the right-hander, the 35-year-old right-hander. Hard to believe, really, that Darvish is 35 years old, but he is, and he just dominates against St. Louis Cardinals. They struggle against him. So I think that the task is tall when you look at the Cardinals against Darvish. You had the big moment. I remember a couple years ago when he was with the Cubs in the 4-game sweep. One of those games, he gave up a late hit. I believe it was Goldschmidt or Molina. So you have the big moments against Darvish. But what makes this game tough, in my opinion, is the Dakota Hudson start. He has struggled to really impress for more than a start or two at a time. His ERA sits comfortably at 3.22. He's 3-2. That's not terrible, but in 9 starts, only got 44 2/3 of an innings pitched. His whip sits at 1.41, just 25 strikeouts in those 44 2/3 of an innings pitched. This is someone that needs to find the strike zone to be effective. And that is something that Dakota Hudson, plain and simple, has not been able to do. He has not been able to find the strike zone this season, which has led to a numerous amounts of unsuccess. His ERA sits pretty good in his last 7 starts at 2.39, but in 37 2/3 of an innings pitched, he's walked 21 batters. On the season, in 44 2/3 of an innings pitched, he's walked 23 batters. And these are his last 3 starts. Against San Francisco, it was solid, 5 shutout innings, but still just 5 innings with 2 walks. Against the Mets, 4 2/3 of an innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. His last time out on the 27th of May against the Brewers, 4 2/3, 5 hits, no earned runs. That's good. That's why his ERA sits so low. But he walked 4 and struck out 3, was unable to get past that 5-inning mark. So if you're going just on ERA, his last 7 starts have been spectacular. He's having a great season, but you got to dig a little bit deeper to realize that Dakota Hudson is not having that great of a season. And I'm a Dakota Hudson fan. I wish him all the best. I think he can do good things for the St. Louis Cardinals. But at the end of the day, right now, he's just not getting the job done. So that's why I think this sweep is going to be hard to pull off, especially because we're not going to see Gallegos today. You're not going to see Helsley today. So those are your 2 top pitchers that are done. Pallante's probably out. Naughton's not going to be available. You're going to have to try and string together innings after Dakota Hudson gets out of the game. And guys, trust me, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Dakota Hudson is able to go out there today and throw 5 to 6, maybe even 7 shutout innings. I hope I'm wrong. But the bullpen, I feel like we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, is pretty thin right now. And the Cardinals, I think, with the series won, because that's the goal, win series, I don't see them deploying their top pitchers. And a couple of them just are going to be straight up unavailable because of back-to-back usage. I would imagine Helsley's not available till Friday. That'd just be my guess because I've used him so sparingly before this. After one back-to-back days appearance on Monday and Tuesday, they might want to give him a little bit extra time. And Gallegos, we know he's better with rest. And he's pitched on back-to-back days. So Cabrera might be available. Probably see maybe Verhagen on a back-to-back night. Maybe you see Wickren, couple of different options the Cardinals have. Whitley, but not the top tier guys. So you do wonder how the Cardinals are going to get the innings that they need to today from their starting pitching. I say that they were able to do it on Monday when that was a huge question in Monday's start, especially with Naughton on the mound, and they impressed a ton. Naughton, Pallante, they impressed a ton on that Monday start. So we'll see what the Cardinals are able to do today to pull out the sweep. The Cardinals have released their lineup. They're going Donovan, Goldschmidt, Arenado. Yepes is playing first. Dickerson gets a start in left. Nootbaar's in right. Sosa's at short. Kisner catching and Bader playing center field. So we'll look to see what the news is on Nolan Gorman, why he isn't in the lineup today. For the Padres, it's Profar, Machado, Hosmer. He gets the start after the day off yesterday. Voit is cleaning up. DH, Cronenworth, Ha-Sung Kim, Austin Nola, Trent Grisham, and Jose Azocar, who was thrown out at the plate last night. A sweep against the Padres would be huge momentum going into the weekend against the Chicago Cubs when you have a 5-game series. But the Cardinals, I don't think they're not going to throw the kitchen sink at this game because they know that they need arms and energy for the rest of this weekend against the Chicago Cubs. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Cardinals. If you haven't watched the other episode that's out today, again, that is kind of a 2-month Memorial Day update, if you will, for the St. Louis Cardinals, because it's important to look at where they expected themselves to be at this point versus where they actually are, because it might not be exactly what the Cardinals thought they were going to be at come June 1st. But with all the injuries and the underperformances, not the worst spot to be in, just 3 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers. So be sure to tune into that one. Be also sure to tune in to today's episode of Locked On MLB with our pal Paul Francis Sullivan, but be sure to call him Sully. Follow me on Twitter at LJ Fastball. Follow the show on Twitter at LO_Cardinals. Email the show anytime at lockedoncards@gmail.com. And until I talk to you guys next time, be sure to stay safe, stay well, and have a fantastic rest of your day.